Today I will be showing you guys how to replace a sear set in your Echo M28. This should fix any slam firing problems that you have with your gun. So first you need to start by removing the 3 screws in the body of the gun. To do this you will need a 4mm hex wrench and either a 3mm hex wrench or something similar like a screwdriver to unscrew the last bolt, the one at the top here. So we're going to start by unscrewing these bolts. And my gun did have the slant firing issue, so I have already replaced my sear set, but I'm doing this just informative for you guys out there. Okay, so once again we have the 3 screws, one underneath the trigger guard, one above it up here, right underneath the mag well, and the one at the top here, the second one for the sling point. So now we're going to remove the disassembly from the stock. Just set the stock aside for now. Okay, now what you want to do, once you have this all disassembled, is you want to knock this pin out right here from the trigger assembly. This pin right here. So what you're going to do is just knock it out like a flathead screwdriver or whatever. Put it with the rest of the screws you have. And what this allows you to do is remove your bolt. So just take this, put it aside. So right here, this is the trigger assembly. That whole block right there. This is the barrel assembly. So you want to start off by unscrewing these 2 screws. The 2 screws on the end of the trigger assembly. Now each of these screws should come with a washer, so keep track of those. So now you can take your barrel assembly, put it aside, and you're now left with the trigger assembly. Next thing is you want to take apart the safety here. You have this bolt, and then there's a spring, and then the safety lever itself underneath that. So take that little assembly apart. Once again, you should have a screw, a spring, and the safety lever itself. Now you have to take apart 4 of these screws. 1, 2, 3, and 4, all on the bottom of the trigger assembly. And make sure you do not lose these screws. Okay. 1, 2, 3 long ones and 1 short one. That's going to go back into the front. Now you want to make sure that you hold your assembly together so that it doesn't spring apart. Now this is the tricky part, because you want to make sure that nothing in here goes flying out. So just be careful when you take this apart. Okay, so that is half of your trigger assembly. Now when you take this apart, you should have 3 springs. You should have the sear spring, the trigger spring, and the spring in the back here. This spring goes right in here. So now I know you're saying to yourself right now, what the hell did I just do? I have like a bunch of these little pieces here. This guy better be able to get this my trigger box back together. And I can. I've already done this before. I've already replaced my sears. These right here are the sears themselves. The Airsoft GI sear set may come disassembled. So all it does is it just comes with a pin, this part right here that moves, and a spring inside. So once you've done that, once you've assembled the sear, you want to start by putting these two little pieces back in. Now these have two little bolts in them, and they adjust the pull of your trigger and how sensitive your trigger is. So the smaller one goes in the front here, and make sure that the part that the screw goes into is facing outwards. Next thing you want to do is you want to take one of the two little pins that you have. They should be about 1/4 of an inch long, and just put those inside of your box, inside of your trigger box. Next, take a trigger with, just take your trigger, put it on this first pin right here, like so, and then take your trigger spring. Now this spring is going to be fairly tough to compress. It's the toughest of all 3 springs that you have. So make sure when you do this that you hold everything down, and just use a screwdriver and just press your spring into the end of this piece right here, like that. Make sure you hold that down.